Hey everyone, I think my mic's working now. But in this video, I'm just gonna be just making a kind of a weird. This is gonna be a weird stream, to be honest. But in this video, or in this stream for that matter, I'm just gonna be explaining what I've learned in terms of how to get quote unquote rich, right? So this video will be a I guess you could call it a guide, or this will be a thought process, right? I don't have a script prepared for this, but I think it's better to get this out the way. So I will use this thing right here. So first of all, in most cases, what I've understood is obviously people say value, right? This is like the same bullshit that everyone says. But when it comes to selling value, there's two types of value you can sell. Okay, there's multiple types of value, I would say. One is you would sell a service, and two is you would sell a product. You'd sell a product, or finally you would sell a. Most of the time you would sell a service, a product, or you would sell something that is pretty rare, right? So these three things is what defines value, right? So this is going to be kind of like a thought process, so don't mind. I'm not going to be reading chat. So basically you're going to be selling this as a value, and you will be selling to other people essentially, right? So you're selling this to obviously either a normal, say, consumer, and we'll call this consumer, versus there's going to be other businesses, which is B2B, right? So essentially you're selling value to either a consumer or a business. So when it comes to this, right, generally this value goes two ways from what I've understood. These are more like contracts. This takes longer to obviously sell to these people versus these people, but these people are kind of fluctuating, and these people are more or less a kind of linear growth, because these two are the only ways of really growing, right? Because if you scale it up to like 100 million people and you make like more profit, obviously this model is better, which is generally where people start with this one. But when it comes to businesses, selling to other businesses, you're selling some sort of value, which is providing them with something that is valuable to that business, which is essentially what we call B2B versus B2C, right? For example, outsourcing companies, right? Or B2C, right? So these, for example, outsourcing companies. So let's say, for example, countries, especially third world countries where they focus more on export, are mainly focused on B2B, right? Obviously, and because they do not have access to B2C, right? So what I'm saying is, when it comes to selling to these B2B people, companies mainly focus on B2B. So there's two types of B2B services, right? One is when it comes to exports, one is so I'll just call this, just to keep things simple, I'll call this hardware, and I'll call it software. But by software I mean anything digital. So for example, it could be marketing, remote sales, whatever, right? So I'll call them all software, right? So essentially this is what we're selling, right? So contracts and stuff. So obviously when it comes to this, so I'm not going to be talking about contracts and like the kind of trust building with a different brand, but in general, the way you communicate this with another person, whether it's a consumer versus a business, is through a brand, obviously, right? Or a company, but which is essentially a brand, right? So it's a company which is essentially a brand. So the better you are. But when it comes to this, the thing that's sitting between the company versus this thing that sits between the company and the other person who will buy it is your offer, right? So that will be your offer. So is it essential? So this is different psychological things depending on the niche, so I will not ramble about this for long. So the company is selling an offer to other businesses or other consumers. So this is what marketing is, right? This selling this offer, sort of communicating this offer, is what marketing is at the end of the day. So when it comes to this, right, So obviously people, for selling this offer that this company sells, people get paid, agents get paid a percentage, right? So so when it comes to this, the clearer your offer is when it comes to the value it produces for the end user who is buying it, the easier it is to communicate why it's important for another person to have it, which is essentially where you make this thing called sales, right? Sales are essentially you're selling your offer. So offer is essentially the value, right? So I cannot type this here for the love of God, but right. So you're selling your value, and then on top of that, there's a whole other paradigm, which this is mainly under business structure, but there's another paradigm when it comes to when it comes to the financial aspect, right? So let's say finances. So finances usually when you obviously have like profit margin calculation. So the better the offer is, the better you can charge for it, right? So the percentage is obviously going to be much higher, but the sales process is going to be much slower because you're mainly selling to high ticket consumers, people who you can make a bigger margin from, right? So finances is important because whatever money you make, you have to reinvest it into the company, right? So yeah, but if you balance this right, you can sell it. So at the end of the day, what we're selling is offer, right? This is the most important thing, because this is essentially our the thing that we're selling, right? And apart from distribution to these people, right, which is either hardware and software, you also sell to, which is also here, you also sell to what's the word for it? So rarity is an exception, but generally people would sell to businesses versus consumers. So yeah, I mean, generally if this is tied to an outcome, which is what I've understood, if you tie this to an outcome, you can make more money, right? So you will make more money if it's tied, if your offer is directly tied to an outcome, right? If the outcome is clear to either the business or the consumer, then people will buy it. So that's what I've understood about commerce in general. And of course, this is just in the micro economy, but there's other things that you can control, right? So that's kind of common sense if you are considering a business model. Things like taxes and external effects, right? Finances, important, right? Finances. So generally you would put down about, let's say, 3 million, and then you are collecting cash flow. So every month, yeah, so it's a whole other topic, but in general, this offer and delivery is also another factor, right? So for the outcome delivery, you need to have the most important part. If you're selling a service, especially, or in general, you would have operations for the delivery of the product or service that you're selling, right? So this is essentially, by delivery, I also literally and figuratively mean delivering the product or service, or even delivering it to delivering the item, transportation, right? So that's what I mean by this. So for this, you need different structures, right? So at first you have to deal with this yourself, but then you start hiring people. That's a different story. But in general, when it comes to delivering something, it's a project, right? So you got to manage this project, which is essentially what we call project management, right? So the company brand needs to show. So this is the most important part, right? Brand needs to show value. So essentially this is where someone decides to either go with it or not, right? So people use many different means of marketing things for this. So you got to be creative with this, because there's no one approach for selling your offer, but one generalized approach is for hiring people and giving them a commission to make you more money, right? So yeah, managing a project is as important, right? This is important. because when we have a project managed, then it's easy to deliver, right? So yeah, there needs to be a structural project managed properly, right? So this includes delivery as well. But then when it comes to whatever this is, you also have to have prerequisites, for example, like supply, right? So it's a prerequisite or anything that is required for providing service-based ones, like, you know, agreements, contracts, whatever, right? So maybe suppliers, you know, inventory stacking, whatever. So that is basically the thought process. I'm thinking if I'm missing anything here. I just like making this because, you know, it's a bit of a finances. Yeah, so finances is a whole different topic. I'll just leave it on the side. But yeah, we all know that we're obviously making profit out of this. I mean, that's the point of this, right? But company brand shows value, right? So it needs to communicate value. That's a better word to say it. Is that just buzzwords? But it's just a thought process, right? I really gotta stop thinking about this and just focus on just keep doing it. Communicate, right? So right now, the part of the pipe which I'm missing for my specific business is the outcome, which is essentially the offer, right? Like, I feel like I should improve my offer, and I should fix, show proof of outcome, because that needs to be communicated with this, right? And I think the copywriting that I'm doing right now is probably not the best, which is why I cannot communicate this value properly, which is the outcome that we're generating for these people, because we're dealing with businesses, right, directly. Yeah, so delivery, you need to have, for delivery, the main prerequisite is having people, right? Even with AI tools, you can't automate it. You need people to fulfill. So managing this project is essentially where things come down to, right? So things come down to delivery by the people, and then managing this project and getting the outcome, delivering that offer value to another business, right? It's either this or it's consumer, right? But the few things that I've seen repeat across every different business model is sales and marketing. So this is one of the highest paid skills, I would say, because, you know, commission structures, whatever. And then we have finances, which is accounting, and we have finances. What else? So this comes with sales and marketing, inventory, depending on the business. What else is there? And legal structures, depending on the business once again. So compliance. So this is what I've understood every business follows, right? So just say, for example, so I'll just call this rent as well, including rent. So monthly payments, you know, liabilities and stuff, inventory, compliance. So this is what everything circles back to. I'm trying to get to a better point here. Hardware and software, so that's fine. Even import businesses technically do this, right? So yeah, am I missing something here? Compliance, businesses, consumer. This is the percentage commission, offer, outcome, and manage the project, and deliver the operations. People deliver the operations, right? But when it comes to really running a company, this is much more complicated. That's a different story, especially this. So ideally you need to have people to deliver, right? People on a list. people on a list, right? People who can deliver whatever it is that you're selling. So, because that is part of operations, right? So yeah, that's basically what I've understood. And can I remove this? All right. Anyways, so consumer, yeah, so this is direct to consumer, this is business to business. You sell an outcome with an offer, which is communicated through your company, and you manage the project, you sell it, right? Am I missing something here? Communicate clear value, right? So this could have a niche as well, which is another aspect, because that's how business structures are made from what I know. So this could have a niche, right? So this could have a niche, which is essentially how the communication is done, right? Because then you could be targeting specific people instead of, you know, so niche sits somewhere in the middle. This is kind of messed up, but the niche sits somewhere in the middle, right? So I would say a company and then niche somewhere here, and then the communication, right? So niche is here. So the most important factor is you need to build trust with this, right? So you need to build trust with this business in order to sell it, right? So selling is trust. Trust is very important. So trust is one of the most important things. So you give that trust through the brand, right? Which is essentially what businesses, how you sell the offer, right? You sell the trust first, and then you sell the offer. So when it comes to this, because if you're a nobody, then people don't really give a shit, right? But when it comes to service businesses, then there's higher chances of succeeding because, you know, they regularly need new services rather than one dominating majority of the market share, right? So it's trust that either makes or breaks these businesses, from what I understood, right? So how do we get along with this trust? So generally, for products you need suppliers, right? So it's a supplier right here. So supplier, yeah. So that's pretty much what we need to know for now. Am I missing something here? I feel like I'm missing something here, but as of right now, I just want to make this because I can't be bothered making this as a video. So I'm just gonna take a download of this. Because, copy link. And yeah, that's basically what I want to tell you guys, because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're selling an offer, right? Even when it comes to things like subcontracting, right? You're selling a brand and you're selling an offer and you're selling trust. Ultimately, you're selling responsibility, right? So responsibility is one of the most important things from what I've understood. And the ability to deliver for people, using people. So yeah, that's basically, selling this offer is the hardest part, right? Because you gotta target the right kind of people, like segmentation, the STP, right? So targeting these people is difficult. Segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So doing this is not the easiest job in the world. So you gotta target, mainly in my niche, it's businesses. So You gotta segment which businesses you gotta target, and then you gotta position yourself as a trustworthy brand that can deliver the value to even niches are better. Be a specialist in a niche, and then you communicate that with your brand, your website, or video sales letter. And once you do that, you just gotta manage. If you do get the client, you just gotta manage. But the most important thing is, I think, the documents, right? Contract documents, because it's compliance to build trust. So generally they ask for documents and stuff. It's all right for now. It's okay. We figure this out later on. But yeah, just wanted to convey a thought, I would say.